Hi, I'm Dr. David Dobson. Welcome to Conversations. Today, my guest is Dr. Uchechukwu Umezurike. Uchechukwu is an award-winning author and an assistant professor in the Department of English at the University of Calgary. He holds a PhD in English from University of Alberta. Uchechukwu writes children fiction books, short fiction, and poetry. His academic research focuses on gender studies and critical race theory. Today, we will discuss his current project, Desiring Home. It's a great pleasure to have you on my show, Uchechukwu.
Thank you very much, David. I'm so excited to be given this platform to have this conversation with you and then to also think what it means to be human in this time and space.
You began your university education in business, hoping to be a banker or financier to make more money, right? I guess. What changed your direction to English literature? Opposite direction.
Well, I am not a good math student, and I've always loved literature, the opportunity it provides you to imagine and reimagine the world and to also be able to think more deeply about issues that relate to the human. And even though these other disciplines like being a banker, being a financial consultant are relevant, but more often than not, they relate to the abstract. By abstract, I mean to figures,
Mhm.
to mathematics, and that was something I later realized I wasn't cut out for. I was more drawn to works of imagination, fantasy, but fantasy that pushes you to really think about the community, other people, and what it means to share this space, this world with others.
Nice,
So
nice.
that's like the long shot of the switch from being involved in the finance and business administration
Yeah,
to coming to the literature or literary arts.
yeah. Um, Let me get back to your project now. You are currently working on a very interesting literary project called Desiring Home. Tell us about this project.
Well, this project is still ongoing because I'm still wrestling with questions that concern migration, diaspora, resettlement in a new country, in this case, Canada.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still exploring opportunities to really think about community making or remaking home among people of diverse ethnic uh, groups,
Mhm,
religious, linguistic, national
mhm,
affiliations. And
mhm.
so it's an academic project in which I'm trying to look at literary works like novels,
Mhm.
uh, poetry, fiction and poetry, as well as cultural works like films
Okay.
and perhaps music and photography. So
Mhm.
I'm still working my way through the kind of genres I want to work with and the
Yeah.
what sort of intervention these works
Okay.
are doing
Okay.
individually.
Okay.
And so it's a project I'm still gestating.
Okay.
It's still at that incubating stage,
Okay.
and it's I'm still doing lots of research and
Okay.
thinking
Okay.
about some of the questions this project is bringing up
Okay.
for me,
Okay.
particularly in relation to home,
Okay.
being an immigrant and then being an African Black migrant and
Yeah.
being an African Canadian, all
Yeah.
these complex multiple
Yeah.
identities have to
Yeah.
live with
Yeah.
in our various communities.
Mhm. So I noticed in your project, it's the main theme say desiring home. So I
Mhm.
want to ask you, what is home to you?
Oh, well, that's hmm. So living in Canada, there are moments I wonder if I'm going to stay here
Mhm.
forever. That's as long as my life, uh, as long as I live. And in those moments, I think I really miss being back
Mhm.
in my homeland, which is
Mhm.
Nigeria.
Mhm.
And but then I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that I may never return home in
Mhm.
Africa, and perhaps I should start thinking about calling Canada home
Mhm.
rather than being pulled back and forth, looking back at home and then looking forward if I want to make home. Yeah. And of course, there are moments that also challenge my sense of being secure and stable in Canada.
Mhm. Mhm.
Moments where I'm being reminded that, oh, I'm different, I'm black, and to be black in Canada seems to be an anomaly because originally the Canadian nation didn't create a space for black people to really feel at home.
Mhm.
And so when I encounter moments such as those where
Mhm.
someone says, "Oh, go back to your country," or uh, "What are you doing here?" and that could be a time, well, when I start thinking about like, can I make home here? And
Yeah.
is this the cost of being uh, of even imagining
Yeah.
to be home here in Canada? But other than that, I think home remains
Yeah.
an ongoing project for me. So I don't know if eventually I'll come to have this definite,
Mhm.
unshakable sense of this is
Mhm.
my home. But at this point in time, this is where I feel more fulfilled in terms of realizing my talent, my skills, my potential, and contributing to the community of knowledge and creativity.
So I'm going to build up to your last response. As you said, you came from Nigeria and now you made Canada your home. Can you share with us a little bit about how that transition was for you? Perhaps your experiences leaving your family behind and starting new life in new country, new land.
So I want to think about transition in two ways.
Okay.
Transition as me coming from Nigeria
Yeah.
to Canada, and then
Yeah.
the transition I'm making
Yeah.
as as an African immigrant in Canada. So there are two
Yeah.
forms of transitions
Yeah.
that are taking place. So the
Yeah.
first one might be seen as the past transition,
Yeah.
leaving my homeland in
Mm,
Nigeria for Canada.
mm,
And then the current transition I'm embarking on is trying to completely immerse myself into the space that is very Canadian,
mm,
and then putting roots
mm,
down,
mm,
feeling accepted, and
mm,
also feeling that others will accept me. And so
mm,
that's the transitional space
mm,
I'm negotiating. So I
mhm,
don't know how long I'll keep negotiating this space
mm,
or if there's a destination in sight,
mm.
but it's a journey, just
Yeah.
like life, or as
Mhm,
life is. And so
mm,
for me, I think there are moments that this transition
mm,
are pleasant and
mhm,
uplifting. And then there are other moments where the transition can be challenging and dispiriting. But other than that, it's been a good, enriching, and educating experience for me.
mm. Can I ask you why there's a struggle to find a true sense of belonging?
Yeah, that's a deep, probing question. I think for each person,
Mm,
it may be different, particularly for each immigrant who comes to Canada, how they may claim their sense of belonging or claim their sense of home is not a given. So people either reconcile themselves to the fact that, oh, this is home, or this may be home, or this could look like home. And for me, I think those struggles, they do not undercut the fact that I live in Canada, that I have a place where I can call home. But then home is also a way of choosing to accept reality. So once I accept that this is my home, whatever complications and contradictions and challenges that come with that acceptance are part of how I make and sense home. And so for me, I think the struggle has been maybe because of the way I identify with the world, or maybe it has to do with race, or it has to do with gender, or it has to do with my reluctance to see things in black and white, or black or white, and to really think about because even when you look at Canada, there's a history of colonial violence, and for someone, this is not my original home. And even if I choose to claim it as my home, but this land belongs to indigenous people. And so, do they want me here as someone who has a home here? Do they want me as a guest? Was I invited in the first place? Would I call myself a settler when I don't have all the privileges and all the assets and opportunities that's being a white settler connotes? And so these are some of the questions I struggle with. And perhaps because I struggle with these questions, I've not reached a space or a point in my life where I can categorically and definitely say, this is my home. So I think acknowledging that this land belongs to indigenous people who were displaced by European people of European descent. And what does that mean for someone like me who comes with a sort of economic privilege to start making here my home? So I think it's a question that demands responsibility, a question that demands a different way of thinking about relationship. Do I have a relationship with the original dwellers of this land, which is the indigenous people? Do I have a good relationship with them? And the kind of relationship I have with them, does it also wound them in a way that they think about the violence and the generational trauma they have to live with? And so I think all these questions and tensions and struggles make it difficult for me to really say, this is my home.
I want to talk about your book. Recently, the University of Alberta Press published your poem collection called There Is More.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's
nice.
Yeah.
Please tell us about this book.
Yeah, so this There's More is a collection of poems.
Yeah.
And the poems, they mainly deal with so they are told from the immigrant's perspective. Most of the poems are told from the immigrant perspective.
Yeah.
And it deals with migration, diaspora, living home, attempting to make home in a new place, longing, nostalgia, community, kinship, and also instances of anti-Blackness. So you could as well say there are moments where race, where it's ugly head. And so in this collection, what I was trying to think about is to grapple with the different ways that one can imagine belonging or one's imagining of belonging can also be challenged by those who would rather see you as not belonging. And so this tension between belonging and not belonging, or even unbelonging. And so this book offered me a way to really think, or even put myself in positions of vulnerability to think about what it means to be different in a community and how difference can sometimes make it difficult to really belong, because communities are always imagined as same, homogeneous people who share a common interest, who have so many things in common. And so, but the fact of difference tends to bring up the issue that, oh, this person is different, so perhaps they don't have anything in common with us. So this book explores questions about difference, about kinship, and how do we live together? How can we think beyond these categories of race, gender, sexuality, ability, religion, nationality, ethnicity, to really affirm what we all have in common. And what we all have in common is that we are all humans, regardless of our skin,
Yes.
our sexual orientation, our gender, or our belief in God, or if those who believe who choose to believe in something else. And so the book is asking us to really think about what we all have in common that transcends just community. And that's the fact of our humanity. We are all human, and we all want to live in good communities. We all want the good life, and we all want to be, hopefully, good people.
Yeah. So writing poem, what means to you? Like when you write poems, how does those poems means to you? Like it's a way to express what's your struggles through poems, or your way to kind of vent your frustration. What this poem means to you?
Yeah, writing poetry means a lot of things to me. So I can't even summarize it in a sentence. But I think you raised you shared so many thoughts in your question. And so I think it could mean a lot of things to me at different times, depending on the mood and disposition I have at that period in time. And so for me, it's a way to really make sense of, for instance, oh, there's a war going on. What does it mean to live in that kind of environment, to live under the climate of running helter-skelter for your life, to lose your loved ones? What does it mean to be a mother who has just lost her life, a father who has just lost his family, a mother who has just lost a child, a father who has just lost his family? And what does it mean? What does it mean to be a marginal person, or to be reduced to a marginalized person? What does it mean to be a foreigner in a country? What does it mean to not have privilege, to always be subjected to profiling, whether by the police or the law? And so poetry for me encompasses a wide variety of questions and moments and sensibility. So sometimes I'm trying to imagine what it means to just love someone. What does it mean when we have a complicated desire for something which we know is unattainable? And so, in a way, I sometimes see poetry as a window to the world. So there are days you look out of the window, it's raining, it's gray, like right now in Calgary. And I guess in Edmonton, I spoke with a friend, and the sky is just all gray. And then yesterday,
in Vancouver, it's sunny.
yesterday in Calgary, it was sunny, so blue.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you open the window
Yeah.
and you look out over your backyard. And sometimes you see the trees, they're all clothed in fruits, in blooms, in nice smelling flowers. Then sometimes you see something, maybe someone even attacking
Yeah.
someone else.
Yeah.
And so poetry is a way to really engage with the world,
Yeah.
regardless of whether I feel happy or sad,
Okay.
frustrated or rewarded.
Nice.
Mm.
So you are a poet and an author, and I know that's probably a lot of work for you. So where do you find your inspiration for writing? I think you mentioned already some of your ideas.
Yeah. So I find inspiration
Yeah.
for writing from a variety of sources.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I draw from my own personal experiences,
Mm.
encounters, and things I've experienced.
Hmm.
And sometimes I get inspiration
Hmm.
from reading the news,
Okay.
the stories people share with me,
Mhm.
and sometimes just watching people and then trying to imagine what they may be going through. Like if I see someone
Okay.
uh, who is unhoused rather than homeless,
Okay.
because homeless would suggest that they don't have a home.
Yeah.
But to be on earth means we all have a home on earth.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
to think in terms of unhoused as
Mm.
someone
Mm.
who does not have the structure of a house.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I see unhoused people lying
Mm.
on the floor of the train station, I
Mm.
sometimes write to understand what it means for them
Mm.
to be in that kind of precarious situation, and what it means for me to just walk past without even stopping to know if they are okay.
Mm. Mm.
So a couple of my poems deal with instances where we choose not to see people who are very marginal in
Mm.
society, people
Mm.
whose condition or
Mm.
reality
Mm. Yeah.
is very different
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
bleaker than
Mm.
ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get inspiration from all this. And uh, recently, I was writing
Mhm.
a set of poems that deal with the migrant crisis
Mhm.
in the Mediterranean. And I
Mm.
read a lot of news stories, reports,
Mhm.
and studied so many
Mm.
photographs
Mhm.
about people drowning,
Mm.
the boats going up in flames or the boats
Mhm.
leaking, and then
Mhm.
the Coast Guard rescuing people, some
Mm.
floating onto the shore dead. And so just gathering all these photos and all these
Mm.
stories
Mm.
put me in a position where I could write
Mm.
uh, some poems on the
Mm.
migrants
Mm.
crisis in the Mediterranean
Yeah.
across North Africa, Italy,
Yeah.
Spain, and Greece.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking that when you see all this, we've been talking about unhoused people or migrant crisis, it does make you sometimes feel kind of sad and also feel discouraged. And then what keep you going?
Yeah, there are so many times it makes me feel sad, disconsolate,
Mm.
and even cynical about human being because
Mm.
like sometimes you just wake up in the morning and there are
Mm.
killings here, mass
Mm.
shootings here, bomb going off here and there,
Mm.
migrants dying as they try to cross the Sahara Desert or
Mm.
the sea,
Mhm.
migrants dying at the borders, whether it's in the US or somewhere else, or
Mm.
even uh, countries attacking each other just because of land,
Mm.
religion,
Mhm.
or just to claim to be more superior than the others.
Mm.
And all these things, they are enough to make one just lose hope. Ah,
Mm.
lose hope and then just be in a state of despair because you can understand how
Yeah.
people just based on some national and foreign ideals would make life unbearable or difficult for the others.
Yeah.
And so when I think about all this, sometimes I just feel stuck and cynical about human being. And I ask myself tough questions like, what's the use of all this teaching, all this writing, all these conversations, all this telling people about ethics, about how to be good, how to acknowledge each other's vulnerability, how to really think about what it means to be poor, marginalized, stigmatized, or discriminated against. But there are moments that give me hope for humanity. And this hope may be very slim, may even be like a flicker, but I think it's enough to reaffirm and reassure me that it may be all dark and gray now, but there are still some people who would support each other, who would help each other to feel human, to feel not subhuman, but to feel that they matter, that they are valued members of the community, of the human community. And so in moments like that, I get a sense of not allowing gloom and darkness to overwhelm me, but rather to hold on to those glimmers of hope and reaffirmation of what it means to be together, however beleaguered we are, however crushed we may feel in spirit.
Thank you for finishing with this positive note, and thank you very much for taking time to have a conversation with me today, Uchechukwu. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, David. It's been a pleasure